This is Ocean Wings, where Manta Ray magic leads to meaningful change. Hosted by me, Ocean Advocate Martina Wing, join us as we explore how nature can reconnect us to what really matters in life. Together, let's dive into how each of us can truly make a difference at this critical time for the environment and our world, and how we can transform awe and wonder into action, conservation, courage, healing, and purpose. Welcome to another episode of the Ocean Wings podcast. I'm glad you're here, and I'm also glad to have today's guest, who is Savannah. And Savannah is a Manta Ray Advocate crew member and my right hand for so many things that this little small company needs. So welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited.
We wanted to dive into your career choices. I remember when you came to Hawaii, you told me that, or when we started working together, you said you're actually from Nevada. And I would like to hear your journey, how you ended up with Manta Ray Advocates.
Yeah. So I'm from a very small town in middle of nowhere, Nevada. Most people actually don't know where it is. It's a tiny little dot for anybody who is familiar with Nevada, about an hour northeast from the Reno area. Tiny, tiny spot, like 2,000 people-ish. So very small. From there, I went to Montana, Helena, Montana, for about 3.5 years for school. When I originally went there, I had the plans to do elementary education. That changed pretty quickly, and I ended up as a theater major. So I spent 3.5 years doing theater work, which mostly backstage. I am not a stage person. I do everything backstage. I like being behind the scenes of things. Not sure if you've picked up on that.
I do.
Yeah. So I very quickly, it was the very first show my freshman year at Carroll College in Montana. I was working backstage with the Romeo and Juliet production. And one of the seniors was the stage manager of the show. And I knew she was leaving and they were trying to find a replacement, but were struggling. I'm like, I don't know what that entails, but sign me up. Let me figure out what we're doing. So I spent the next couple months of training to become a stage manager. And that's what I did the rest of the time I was in Montana. Did multiple productions doing that. During that time, I met my now husband. That's Christopher. And he had ties to Hawaii. When I met him, had no idea. And there's always been this little seed in the back of my head of, I'm going to end up in Hawaii at some point. When I was in, I believe it was kindergarten, my grandma had gone on one of her many trips, and that year was Hawaii. And they came back with, it was her and my grandpa, they came back with some dresses for me and my sisters from Hilo Hattie's, and this little VHS tape on how to learn how to hula. Don't know why, but random little fun souvenir. Mm-hmm. And from then, I've had this little idea, I'm going to end up in Hawaii. Before I went to Carroll, there was this idea I would go to Hawaii Pacific University. Didn't happen. Figured Hawaii's way out of my price range. It's never going to happen. Months into dating Chris, I found out his family lives here. After the first year in Montana, he actually moved out here. He dropped out of school, became an electrician. And then I followed him here a couple of years later, which is how I ended up on the island. So
that's definitely a journey, isn't it? Yeah. But it's so fun to hear that the seeds were planted so early. You know, I really enjoy that. So when you had little hula lessons on a VHS tape and then meeting someone and you didn't know he had actually family ties to Hawaii. This is so cool. All right. But continue. So I was running in there.
No problem. So when I moved out here, I did theater still for one production out here, and it just wasn't really a fit anymore for me. I don't know if it was just that particular show. Sometimes things just don't work out the way you thought they would. So even though I thought theater was going to be the end all be all, it wasn't. I haven't touched it since 2019, which is kind of crazy. I thought that's where my career path was going. Super excited. It's not. I ended up doing pest control for about 3 years. Just shy of 3 years, I think. And the only reason that ended up stopping was I ended up having my daughter. As soon as I had her, we knew I was going to be fortunate enough I could be a stay-at-home mom for a little while. So having her, after about a year of just me and her at home, I was going a little stir crazy. I'm like, I need to do something. I need work again. So I started to look into at-home jobs. Wasn't really working out much. And then one of my two mother-in-laws, Janine,
I
you
know her
know
very
her from the
well.
boats?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I know her well.
And right around Drew's first birthday, Janine was looking for her birthday present, went into, I don't know if she ran into you at Hilo Hattie's or if she ran into you
Texted me,
somewhere
I
else.
think. She just texted me because we worked together for 20 years on the
Mhm.
boats, or almost 20 years. And so we had phone numbers, right? I think it was a text message. And then we met in town to meet. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right.
And that particular birthday present happened to be the book that you wrote about Notch the Rescue Dolphin, which we still have. It's one of Drew's favorite books. And during all of that meeting, you and Janine, from what I understand, I'll let you tell that story, but you were looking for an admin, which led into Janine working for you. And then she planted the seed that her daughter-in-law was looking for work. So I joke with guests when they ask me every now and again that I'm the Nepo baby of the company. My mother-in-law got me the job, and
Yes,
here I am.
yes. And we are so glad she did. We're so glad she did. But she definitely planted a seed. We were just sitting in a coffee shop in town, hadn't seen each other for 2 or 3 years. So we caught up on stories. And it just came up that I looked for someone working remotely for customer service. You are really the person that picks up the phone. So when anybody listening to this, you would call us. Most likely you pick up the phone. And before that, it was Janine. You had an overlap of a couple years working together. But we were in a situation that we needed someone else besides Janine for customer service and administration. And it worked out really, really perfect. Just want to go back to one more question. You did pest control, right? Were you actually on the truck driving around town, or were you more on the administrative side?
I was on the administrative side. So I was never actually in the field with that. It was in the talks that at some point I needed to go in the field just to better help customers on the phone. And after 3 years, it still never happened. Just logistical planning just didn't work out. I was the admin assistant. So I was the manager's right hand. And she worked remotely. So I was on Zoom every day for 6 hours with somebody in California, just sitting in the office by myself for the most part before we eventually ended up having to hire somebody else to sit in the office because we had just gotten so busy.
But it makes perfect sense because when you joined our team, or when we hired you, I was surprised how fast you picked up on everything. You made it then to be our main administrator for so many tasks. And I was always just really blown away how you picked up on something to do and then you expanded on it, or you had so much reliability to finish the task correctly. I never had to worry about things, and you never had any contact with ocean recreation business. It was another thing that I really thought was a fantastic about you, to pick up on things really quick. With your talent for organization, you also picked up on other things that is so unique for our business. And I want to dive a little bit into that. And we actually have some pictures we wanted to show our folks. So if you're on YouTube, you will definitely see the pictures. But if you're on the other platforms, we will describe the pictures for you. And so what happened? Tell me, do you remember how that all came about, that you not only were an assistant to me in the office, then you turned into a swim guide, and then also you got to know the Manta Rays so much?
Yeah. So office-wise, after I believe it was about a month working, you asked me to come out to the Mauna Kea where we do the swim, again, so I could better teach or explain on the phone so guests knew what to expect. It's a lot easier for me to do that if I know what's going on. So I came out on a Saturday, did the swim with you. That very quickly turned into, well, let's do this once a month. And that once a month turned into I'm out there every Saturday. And then every Saturday and Sunday. And at that point, I was learning how to do the on-land briefing. So I was just one of the people on land helping you guys out as guides, telling everybody about mantas. So I had to pretty quickly pick up from A to B everything that you've taught everybody during the briefings. What to expect during the tour, anatomy of mantas, how we identify them, ins and out of the tour, essentially. I did that for, I think it was a year and a half of just briefings. And then you asked one day if I wanted to be a swim guide. I said, well, yeah, of course. Of course I want to be in the water. The first time I was ever in the water is a swim that I'll never forget. One, because how can you forget swimming with a manta? They're amazing creatures. But Vegemite Ray was out with us. I wish I remembered who else we had that night, but I specifically remember we had Vegemite. And it was her fourth night being able, or not able, but comfortable barrel rolling, which for the guests who don't know what that means, the mantas may do a roll underneath us and go belly to belly to get as much plankton at one time. And it's a really beautiful moment. And Vegemite had just started getting comfortable doing that with our group. It's her fourth night doing it, and she came up and smacked my snorkel out of my mouth, which is not a super
Memorable.
common thing. Yeah. So she's forever ingrained. She's tattooed on my ankle because if any of them are going to have a permanent spot, it is going to specifically be that manta.
That's right.
She made an imprint that night. So after you asked if I wanted to become a guide, we did about 10 in-water training sessions where I pretty much just followed you the entire time and studied every single thing you did in the water from the second we left the beach shack, how you maneuvered swimming backwards without your hands, because for some reason that was my biggest hurdle to figure out. Because while I love being in the water, ocean swimming wasn't something that I had done a lot. My husband taught me how to snorkel, and I think I had done that 3 or 4 times ever before I went in the water with you. Yeah. Very low ocean experience. Lots of swimming, just not as common in the ocean. So I just watched every single thing you did for 10 swims or 10 nights. It might have been 2 swims per night.
Plus, we did some lifeguard training too, right? So
Yes. Yeah. So I got my lifeguard certification in there as well, which is the day that I did my lifeguard was the first official day that we had one of our other guides. So Rhiannon was the first day that she was hired. So her and I became pretty quick friends because we were 2 full days of class being stuck together. It's pretty awesome. So yeah, so I just followed you around for the duration of multiple tours in order to figure out exactly what to do to become essentially a mini me of you in the water as much as I can.
I remember actually saying that, it's like, don't do things very different for me. Just use me as a stencil or the formula. I'm doing this for so long. I really know what to look for to keep everybody safe. And of course, people safe, but especially the Manta Rays, that they're safe. And that it comes out to a successful swim. And I do have the formula down. And all my crew members said, come on, and including you, of course. It was about showing you step by step. And if you repeat that at least 10 times, then you have it down. And you're swim guiding now for several years, right?
2 years as a swim guide now. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, fantastic. You are very reliable, and the guests love you. And it's a lot of a running joke for us too. The weekend, you come on the weekend because of your little daughter. And it's the time that you can talk to adults, isn't it?
My adult interaction time. Yep.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it's my free time. It's quite the drive, but it is a well worth it drive. So
Yeah. For folks, the island is pretty big. We call it, as a nickname, the Big Island. And how long does it take you to come to work? Total time, one way?
total time one way is about 2 hours.
And then you go home at
Yep.
the same night. So you have a 4-hour commute. to be with the Manta Rays and get your water time. That's how you always say it. I need to be in the water. Feels good. That's right.
It's my weekly reset.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very dedicated. Thank you for that. Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah. So wanted to dive a little bit into you're highly organized. And so what amazing things have you done for our little team? And it actually ties into also questions that people ask us when we talk about the Manta Rays. And later on, we also want to talk about another aspect of your customer service repertoire when you answer questions for guests. But what amazing things have you brought to this team as for storytelling?
Yeah. Yeah. So one of the, I guess, finds most recently, we had one of our regular mantas show up. It was on a night that you and I were working back in July of 2023. He joined us. His name is Black Diamond, and he had a fishing hook lodged in one of his cephalic fins. And just so everybody who is watching, I can show you guys what anatomy-wise to look for real quick. So for anybody who can see, where the arrow's pointed, that is the cephalic fin. In the front of a manta, in front of their mouth, they have these two cephalic fins that come down. And when they're in that position, it funnels plankton into their mouth. And then they've got an eye on either side. So where that arrow is the left cephalic fin. And Black Diamond had a hook embedded into that left cephalic fin. So that was on July 8th of 2023. He had that hook. It was a very fresh hook with about 30 feet of fishing line still attached to it, wrapped around him and trailing off. Now, there's not a ton that we were able to do in the water that night in order to, get the hook off, get the fishing line off, anything like that. You immediately did jump into action, try to get as much of the fishing line off that you could. And you were able to get a good chunk of it off, I believe. I don't remember how much, but it was a decent amount.
Yeah, we didn't want the line to trail much longer, simply because the Manta Ray got hooked with the fishing by fishermen. People were fishing out there. The hook was stuck in his cephalic fin, pretty deep also. And if the line would have just stayed on it, it can easily get hooked onto a reef, and then it's really hurtful for the Manta Ray. I've done it so many times now with rescues. It's always good to cut the fishing line shorter. But so what you see in the picture is a little bit of the line and then the hook where this arrow points. So why is this? I mean, it's a special story for sure. But what did you do with this? That's the really cool part of answering a question. How long does it take a fishing hook to rust out? Because you cannot rescue the Manta Ray from that. That's what usually stays stuck.
Yeah. So because he's a manta that we see fairly regularly, every night we document which mantas we saw. So I started tracking, pulling footage that we had from every single night that we had him after this hook to see how that injury was progressing. And we ended up having him for 666 days with that hook. Over that time period, we had him 64 times. So for about a year and 10 months, he showed up 64 times in that time frame, all still with that hook embedded. Yeah. And it was at different stages of development. One of the days that he showed up, he had quite a bit more injuries on him that were also fishing line injuries. By day 666, all of those ones had healed, but he did still have this fishing hook. Let me pull up that image here for you real quick as well. So on this one, you'll see two pictures side by side because this is where it got super exciting. So on the website, if you haven't been to our website, mantarayadvocates.com, there is a database of all of the mantas that either we've named or we see regularly. And on his page in particular, we wanted to have that story. And the picture that I had saved already from day 666, which was May 4th of 2025, he was far enough from the camera that you could tell it was him, but you couldn't really see that the hook was gone. So I went back into our folder and wanted to see if I could find a better picture. And the first video that I pulled up had the hook in it. And I was really confused. I had been staring at different videos with the hook, so I'm like, okay, it's going to be a trick of the mind. It's got to be something. Played it again. Sure enough, that hook was there. Went back into all of our notes. No, this was the day that we had him where that hook was gone. And we knew that we had him 3 days prior on May 1st where the hook was still there. So I'm like, okay, maybe I put it in the wrong folder. No, we had a file from May 4th with the hook. The very next video, the hook was gone. So I started to go crazy. I'm like, this is amazing. Okay. So I texted you and I'm like, okay, this is what I found. I need to find out more. But we usually don't keep the original files on our computers. And for some reason, we did for this night.
That's right.
So we were able to check the original metadata from those videos and found that those 2 videos of yours were 1 minute apart. So at 8 o'clock on May 4th.
1 minute. That's what I'm saying. 1 minute. So
Yeah.
8 p.m. 8 p.m.
8 p.m. he had the hook. And at 8:01, the next video of him rolling, that hook was gone.
It's incredible.
So somewhere in there, yeah, it had finally just rusted out enough that during his roll for that next minute, it came loose. It was gone.
Yeah.
I was so excited.
I was blown away when you texted me, and I'm just like, nah, that can't be, And then you dive deeper into the topic and look at even more footage, right? And then you asked me to go and check the folders, the original folders. And it was really 1 minute apart and I had filmed it. So I guess I came out of the water at the end of the night and I said, hey, the hook is gone, right? But from thinking it was 3 days between hook, last sighting, and no hook, we actually narrowed it down to that particular 1 minute where the hook was rusted enough to just fall off. And of course, this can only be told as a story if you are so diligent like you are. And I really appreciate that, that you enjoy this so much and you just keep going and dive deeper, literally, into how to find good information from the videos we take every night. So thank you for that. That's a really cool story to be told. Yeah. We can answer the question, how long does it take for a fishing hook to rust out? Now, in his case, we can say 1 year, 10 months, or 666 days. Of all the numbers you came up with, this fun number. Thank you for that. Great. Another thing that you're really good at is statistics. So we wanted to do a quick look behind the scenes, what you also do, besides picking up the phone, answering questions, but it actually our statistics really tie into the questions you get because we want to give good information to whoever joins us. And so tell me what you do with the statistics.
Yeah. So it goes back off that same, we log every manta that we see every night. And in 2022, I don't know if it was just, I'm a know-it-all. I want to know everything. I got really curious one day. You have all your statistics from in the past. And I was like, I want to know who we saw the most this year. So I went in, started plugging in all the numbers and sent you a list of these are all the mantas that we had this year and how many days each. So we knew each individual manta, how often we had them. And now ever since then, I'm like, they don't know they're in a race, but I know they're in a race. And I'm constantly checking who's in first place, which also goes into, okay, well, we haven't seen this one for however long. And it's about time they start coming back. And if it's been longer than normal in their gaps, I start to question where they are and start paying attention a little bit more than normal. Because I'm like, hey, it's been a while. Where are you? And I could only do that because we are keeping track of them every single night.
Oh, but it ties into the question we get from the customer.
Yeah.
Do you have regular Manta Rays? And thanks to your detailed statistics, we have really good answers, right? So what are the answers? Do you have something you can tell us about 2025?
I do. So
I knew it.
So we have about 10 individuals that we typically see on a regular basis. But then there are a couple others that we see not on as frequent of a basis. So for 2025, we ended up with 18 individual manta rays. 13 were females, 5 males. So for those who can see, I have a list of all the names here for you.
When I look at the list, for example, I can see one name. Her name is Manta Ray, right? And Manta Ray used to be a regular Manta Ray. And last year, she didn't show up so much, maybe only once or
Yeah.
twice. On the other hand, we had then the Manta Ray called Luana Ray, we've never seen before. That was so exciting last summer. We're like, there's a new Manta Ray, there's a new Manta Ray. And then actually Rhiannon was able to get the belly shut. It's a shy Manta Ray. It's really hard to get underneath, right? But somehow Rhiannon managed it. And we found she was already named, but Luana Ray showed up in the bay. And I think she was there maybe 20 times.
And her behavior is just so much different than all the others.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. She very much likes to hang out in a shallow area where she can't do anything except go in a circle, pretty much.
Yep. That's right. And then one who's missing on that list that we saw the year prior is Tiger Ray, a large female that is known for a long time. But we were like, the last couple of 3 years, she showed up once or twice a year. And so we're like, where is she? This 2025. But she didn't make the list. So she never showed when we were in the water. So for everybody, our statistics are based on that we encounter our bay at night, probably have exposure to the Manta Rays for about 3 hours. And in that window, which Manta Rays do we see? And that's what we keep track of. And so that's our real passion.
Yeah. As we were getting to the end of the year, I kept looking for Tiger specifically because I knew it was getting to the time that we would typically start seeing her. And I was even telling Rhiannon this last week, I'm like, we didn't see her for whatever reason this year. And she forgot it was 2026. She's like, we still have time. There's still hope.
That's right.
But
cool. If a customer says now, hey, how many Manta Rays do you see? Well, we can say 18 individual Manta Rays were sighted in 2025. But of those, you say about 10 of them have real regularity, like come regularly. So is there any of the Manta Rays that stick out? Like the question is, how often do they show up? 10 times, 20 times? Do you have any answers to that?
So I can tell you with the 3 that we've seen the most often, and I have a fun little graphic here also. So the top 3 mantas that we had for the year, we had X-Wing the most. We operated 270 nights out of the year, and X-Wing showed up 178 of those nights.
Incredible.
So she's definitely a regular manta at this point, and she's only been with us for about a year now. She showed up in July of 24 or July of 23. I think it was 24.
It was her first full year, right?
Yeah.
2025 was her first full year. And the same for Lana Del Rey. So.
Yep, they showed up in the same month. So Lana Del Rey was 2 days behind X-Wing. We had him 176 days out of the year, which was very exciting. The 2 of them definitely, there were some time periods where it was, those 2 sustained us. They showed up. We say when one manta shows up, it's a good night. And those 2 did it for us on quite a few of those nights. Third place is the number 1 manta for the 2 prior years. It was Kamala Ray, and she had 128 days. She's dropped a little bit, but she's still right up there in the top sightings, which is very exciting.
Yeah, the beauty of Kamala Ray is just, we met her in 2021, in November of 2021, when she was just a pup, really small. And to see her grow up, I think she has now about 6 feet of wingspan, maybe even more, being in their presence is incredible in the first place. But to see a Manta Ray grow up, that's pretty special. So, yeah. And she knows the program. All these 3 know the program. And when we say that, we mean they have so much trust to come close to the surface where we would be with our guests. So our guests would get a close-up of the Manta Rays. And for most people, that is so hard to believe that a wild animal in the ocean comes close to them. They're happy when they're 20, 30 feet away, and that would be great to see him that far away. And then we always snicker and be like, yeah, depending on which Manta Ray shows up, you might be getting a close-up. And close-ups for us means inches away. I mean, we really mean
inches.
Depending on which Manta Ray. But X-Wing she's pretty bold, and Lana Del Rey has definitely figured out where the light is good food. And Kamala knows that program also for a long time. That's beautiful. Is there anything else you can tell us about the statistics? A customer would ask you a question, and based on your statistics, you can actually answer that inquiry.
Yeah. So one of the main questions I get asked almost on a daily basis is, well, you're going to guarantee that I have a manta, right? And We can't. One of the things that I've said more than once, based off of something a guest had said, but we're not opening a cage. We're not releasing the mantas. We don't know if they're going to show up. But based off of these numbers, I can tell you what the likelihood's going to be. So I started pulling numbers and wanted to see what that would look like. So we have the year broken down into a couple different sections. So we have like our peak season, our winter season, and then a little bit of transitions. So our sighting successes for this last year, in January and February, it's not going to look super exciting. And I know what that looks like. In February, we had a 0% chance. We had a 0 success of mantas. And that is for a very specific reason. We did not get to operate at all in February. Our winter conditions are really, really rough. We get some really large waves that'll make the area inaccessible for safety. And that's always our top concern. We will never take anybody into anything unsafe. We know January and February, we're going to cancel more often than the rest of the year. We usually get some small windows of opportunity. And February last year said, not at all. You're not going to go out. So if we don't go out, there's no chance you're going to see a manta. In comparison to the month right before, we had 3 days where we were able to go out. And one of those days we had a manta. So 33% sighting success. So for those 2 months, it's about a 17, roughly. And then for the next 2 months, it's kind of transitioning back into our peak seasons. And things start to get a little bit better. In March, 75% success. April, 92% success. And you'll see the trend in the numbers start to get better. I always tell everybody, April through end of October, we have over a 96% chance of seeing mantas. And you can see it reflected here. May, June, July, September, we had mantas 100% of the time.
Meaning,
August,
whenever we operated, we saw mantas. Every group saw it. That's fantastic, right? Then it just drops down a couple times in August and October.
Yeah, but it was just one day in August. We operated the entire month, but there was one day where we didn't see mantas. Some pretty good odds there in my book.
Do you remember what happened in August? Why didn't we work on that one night, or we couldn't operate?
We worked. We just didn't see. So we worked all nights in August. There was just one night where we didn't see a manta. But on the next slide, there will show one night in July where we didn't work for a very specific reason.
Okay, just tell us what happened.
The only time we ended up having to cancel for the entire summer last year was because of our tsunami warning.
Yeah, serious stuff, right? If we have a tsunami warning, civil defenders like stay home, don't go close to the ocean. Of course, you had to cancel, and some people were disappointed, but yeah, safety first is the motto here. All right.
Yeah.
Okay,
one of my favorite things to hear on the phone when we cancel for safety is, but I can pay you more. You can still take us, right?
Yeah, that is...
No.
We can't do that.
But
we need to keep everybody safe. That's right.
Fun numbers there.
Yeah.
And then November, December, it does drop. For the same reasons as you'll see in March and April, transitioning back into the winter.
Yeah, for you folks that want to join the Manta Ray experience, there's good times and bad times to do this, And it's over all these years we are doing this. January, February is our downtime. Literally, we can stay home more. And then from the rest of the year, we hustle and we go out every night, or we try to go out every night. So super cool information, because you can tell people it's over 90% chance to see a manta ray if you come between April to November, right? Fantastic numbers.
So I also pulled every single night where we had a cancellation and how often that happens. This isn't based off of customer cancellations. This is, for whatever reason, we need to cancel. January and February, I touched on it a little bit already. February, we didn't work at all. January, we were able to operate 3 days. So there's a 99% chance in January and February, tours aren't going to happen. We're seeing that this last week. We haven't operated for several days because of ocean conditions. It's a constant conversation I'm having on the phone right now. And then March and April, things start to get a little bit better. We're not canceling nearly as frequently. And then peak season, the only time we canceled was the tsunami.
Yeah.
which didn't actually affect the area for us specifically.
Civil defense gives us a warning. It's coming. That's kind of, but it did not hit the islands, and we were very grateful for that. I think those numbers are fantastic, and I'm really glad that you have such a drive to bring this to the customer and to have solid numbers. It's not just anecdotal that you say, yeah,
Yeah.
winter is not so good to do the tour. We can prove this with numbers. So I really appreciate that. Thank you so much for that. So
Oh, of course. Yeah.
there's one more project we wanted to mention for the folks that it has to do with box jellyfish and a calendar and manta rays. And I started the project a few years ago because we are really driven to bring to the public the knowledge that once a month box jellyfish can come close to the shorelines on the 8th, the 9th, and the 10th day after the full moon. And it's just not common knowledge. And unfortunately, there are not many other people that perpetuate that information. But we will try and sometime soon to have researchers who do that work and go a little bit deeper into this topic. So Hawaii is always pretty, and we always think it's all easy and you can always go into the water. But when the box jellyfish come close to shore, and that's a monthly phenomenon, we wanted to bring this to the customer in a fun form. I started the project, and you took over, and I'm so glad you did. So, what is it about?
Yeah. So it was that first year that I started working, I took over the calendar, and each month at that time had different ocean creatures, pictures that Jim or you took. So it was all local ocean life pictures, which was super exciting. And then the main body of the calendar was what days to expect to see those box jellyfish. And then as the years have progressed, we started to shift what that looked like. And now every single month, you get a different manta ray and then a little story either about that manta or something about the rays in general or what to expect while you're here that has a little QR code with it that'll take you to somewhere either specifically about that ray or just to progress that storyline a little bit more for you. And then, of course, it's still the main focus is that box jellyfish. So you don't lose that, but you've now gained all these individualized little stories for each month. And it's been a fun project every year. And we just get to work on that all the time. And I love working on this. And I do have it here.
Yeah, show us. Show us. We want
Yeah,
to put it in the show notes too, how you get it. I think the 2026 calendars, the paper is sold out at this point,
it is.
but we always have a PDF version available, because if you plan your travels to Hawaii, you maybe want to look that up, because it's just have more knowledge about it is already tremendously helpful for the traveler. So, okay,
Yeah.
what you got there?
So you've got the cover here. On the side here, you have Jolene Ray, and she's got her two cephalic fins coiled up into the horn position, and she's breaching the water. So then you also see her eyes sticking out right here. If you want more about that picture specifically, if you go to our website and go to Jolene's page, specifically in the Manta catalog, there's actually a video of what happened after she breached. Very fun video.
It's a really fun video, and we will link in the show notes to it. Yeah, it involved my husband Jim, and a big wingtip coming down on him. We think it's really funny. I think he thinks it's funny too, but just today it's really funny. On
Different.
the moment itself, it was like, wow, manners can really they're powerful. Anyway, we lined it up, we teed it up very nicely that you go and check out that video, check the show notes. All right, and
And then here's what those pages would look like. So you've got all your little month days sitting here. And then in this lighter blue, you have the low probability days, sandwiching in your 3 nights where you can expect to have that high probability. So you know on every month when to look out for those box jellyfish.
yeah, it's day or night that they can show up. They reproduce offshore during those days, and when the tides and the winds and the upwellings, currents work against us, all leeward sides of all Hawaiian Islands are affected. And we operate normally. We just say, folks, bring some skin protection, long sleeves and long pants, like yoga pants or a wetsuit. And we just want to make sure people are not being stung, and they're not deadly, but just the burning sensation. And if we can avoid it, we want to do our best customer service-wise to do that. And you send those calendar pages to the guests in preparation for it, right? So it's really helpful for
as soon as
the
somebody
recipient.
books those days, we flag it. It's information they immediately get, so they're not blindsided. They know as soon as we know that they've booked, they get that information, so they can prepare as much as possible.
Yeah.
So
We have an eagle eye on all the incoming bookings, and we review all of them. And if it's on a calendar day with a box jellyfish, we reach out to you for sure. Yeah. All righty. So that's what you do with your journey to come to the Manta Ray Advocates from admin a couple days a week. Now you're more or less full time. And I'm really grateful that you do the work for us. You are definitely my right hand. And you have many right hands to my right hand as well. So thank you for that. Anything else you would like to, what you do maybe? Do you have hobbies? I would think your daughter is your hobby. She keeps you busy when you're at home.
yeah, anytime I'm not working, it's pretty much 100% Drew. So I'm homeschooling her. So if I'm not working, it's school. And one of her favorite things right now to learn, and has been for the last year and a half, maybe it's been 2 years now, she is obsessed with mantas at this point. Because I'm reviewing footage every day from the night before, as soon as they come up on my screen, she comes running over and she goes, "It's a manta ray." And I have the cutest videos on my phone of her going over. She has a manta plushie, the same one that we use for our briefings. And she'll go through the anatomy of a manta ray as understood by a 4-year-old. She knows it as much as possible. She gets super excited. Recently, she came to work with me one night, and I took her up to Manta Point, which is the viewing point where you can see mantas from shore. And it was the first time she got to see them in person. And as soon as it was Lana Del Rey in the water, he comes and he swims past, and she just starts screaming. She's like, "Oh my gosh, it's a manta." We start to leave after a few minutes, and she goes, "Mama, manta rays are cooler in person than on your computer." Like, you're not wrong.
Yeah.
We think so too.
Yeah. We totally agree.
That's why
with
we
you.
do it.
That's right.
Yeah.
This wraps up this beautiful conversation with you, Savannah. Thank you so much for finding us at Manta Ray Advocates and being so open and tying things together that were loose ends at some point, finding statistics or stories about Manta Rays that customers really enjoy knowing. So I'm super happy that you're with us, and I hope there will be many more years to come. And thank you for joining us, and talk to you soon.
Thanks for having me. You know where to find me. I'm everywhere.
That's right. We text each other all the time. So until the next text, and then thank you for everybody listening and watching. Aloha.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us on Ocean Wings. If this episode moved you, inspired you, or made you think, please follow and share it with someone who cares about conservation and making meaningful change. Want to learn more or experience the magic of manta rays? Get in touch at oceanwingspodcast.com and subscribe to our emails for more stories from the ocean. Tune in next week for another episode. Until then, keep swimming with purpose. Aloha.